So we have studied that totally there are four types of tissues. Nama. So first one we have studied about epithelial tissues, and the second one now we are studying about connective tissues. Clear? So what is the function of connective tissues? Ma? పేరులోనే ఉంది కదా, connective tissue means what? It is responsible for connections between different types of tissues or different types of cells. This is called as connective tissue. Clear, Nama? So 1 minute. Okay. So therefore, let us see what are the important points about the connective tissues. Ma. So it links and supports other tissues and organs, and it is the most abundant in the case of complex animals. So in all the four tissues, which is the most abundant tissues, ma? Most abundant tissues is connective tissues itself. Okay. So all connective tissues except blood, they have fibroblast. So this is one important point which you should remember. So all the types of connective tissues except blood. Blood is also a connective tissue. No? It is also responsible for connecting different body parts. So blood doesn't have fibroblast. Are you able to understand? So this fibroblast is a type of cell which is helpful in healing of wounds also. So when we get wounds on our body, so this fibroblast cells, they are responsible for healing the wounds also. And what is their main function? Main function is they secrete fibrous proteins called collagen and elastin. So these fibrous cells, what they will do? They will produce these materials called collagen and elastin. And what is the use of this collagen and elastin? So they are responsible for giving flexibility and strength to other tissues. Are you able to understand? So giving strength, elasticity and flexibility. So this is the use of this collagen and elastin. Who produces this collagen and elastin? Who produces fibroblast cells? So where this fibroblast cells is absent, in blood is absent, in remaining all the connective tissues you can find it. Clear, Nama? So the cells also secrete modified polysaccharides, which is also called matrix, which accumulate between the cells and the fibers. Clear, Nama? So in between the cells, there will be a material which fills the gap between two cells, Nama. For example, if these are the cells, clear, no? In between the cells, you will find what? You will find a matrix which is present, no? And what is this matrix called as? This matrix is called as intercellular matrix. Are you able to understand? Ma? So therefore, these cells, they produce these polysaccharides also. And what is meant by polysaccharides? Carbohydrates are nothing but polysaccharides. Are you able to understand? Ma? And these get accumulated between the cells as well as the fibers. So these are the functions of these connective tissues. Okay. So they produce a fibroblast cells, and fibroblast cells, what they will do? So they will produce collagen and elastin, which is responsible for providing mechanical strength and flexibility to the tissues. And they also produce polysaccharides, which function as intercellular matrix. Understood, Nama? That's it. So next, so these connective tissues, again we can divide them into three types. What are they? First one is called as loose connective tissue. Second one is called as dense connective tissue. And the third one is called as specialized connective tissue. So connective tissues, again we are dividing them into three types: loose, dense and specialized connective tissues. So these loose connective tissues, again we are dividing them into two types. One is areolar, second one is adipose. And the dense connective tissues we are dividing again into two types: dense regular and dense irregular. Specialized connective tissues we are dividing them into three types: cartilages, bone, and blood. Okay, ma? So this classification is very easy to understand, ma, and you are supposed to by heart all of them. Are you able to understand? So loose connective tissue is divided into how many types? Two types: areolar and adipose. Clear, ma? And dense connective tissue is divided into dense regular and dense irregular. And specialized connective tissue it is divided into cartilage, bone, as well as blood. So these are the points, and see in the figures also you can see, ma. So this is how this areolar tissue appears like. This is how adipose tissue appears like, and this adipose tissue is the tissue which is responsible for storing fat. Clear, no, ma? And dense regular, it means there will be a regular arrangement of these fibrous cells. And dense irregular, it means there will be a irregular arrangement of these fibers or cells. Are you able to understand? And cartilages, we know cartilages, no? The muscle, the bony part which is present in the ears and in the vertebral column also you can find this cartilage. Okay, ma? A smooth material, but it is uncompressible material. And you know bone, bones are made up of bone cells, and blood is made up of different types. Are you able to understand, ma? So these are the different types of connective tissues which we have. Now let us study each of them in detail. So loose connective tissues, so in these cells you will have fibroblast. So this is very important concept, where you find what you find in this loose connective tissues. What you find, ma? You will find a fibroblast. And what is the purpose of fibroblast? Already we have studied, no? So they are responsible for producing collagen and elastin, and they will give strength and what you call flexibility to the tissues. Clear, no? That is the function of fibroblast. Macrophages. What is the purpose of macrophages? So these are the cells which are responsible for your developing of the immune system. Okay, ma? What is the function of macrophages, ma? Responsible for development of immune system. So whatever bacteria or other harmful microorganisms, when they enter into your body, these macrophages will fight with them and they will protect your body. Are you able to understand, ma? So here I have written. So obstruction of bacteria and other harmful organisms is the function of macrophages. And similarly, mast cells are also produced. Mast cells. So these mast cells, they contain histamine, they contain heparin, and they are also a part of neuroimmune system. So make a note of those points. Clear, no, ma? So NCERT lo leni points anta meeru raskuntu vellali. Are you able to understand? So therefore, so loose connective tissues produce what kind of cells? They will produce a fibroblast, they will produce macrophages, and they will produce mast cells. Macrophages are responsible for what? For protection against harmful organisms, bacteria, virus, whatever it may be. And mast cells, they are also a part of neuroimmune system, and they will produce which kind of chemicals? They will produce histamine and heparin. Understood, Noma? That's it. So these fibers are loosely arranged in a semi-fluid matrix. What is meant by semi-fluid matrix, ma? Semi-fluid matrix means what? So the matrix, the intercellular matrix, that is what we call matrix, no, ma? So the material which is present in the gaps between the cells, that is called as intercellular matrix. And here what kind of intercellular matrix is there? Semi-fluid. It means it is not a solid also, it is not a liquid also, it is in between. So that is why it is called as a semi-fluid. Are you able to understand? And this loose connective tissue, again we are dividing them into how many types? Two types: areolar, and the second one is called as adipose. Now let us see what is the function of this areolar as well as adipose. If you ask what is the function of macrophages, what is the function of mast cells? Clear, Noma? Now let us see. So areolar tissue. So in the figure you are able to see this areolar tissue, Noma. So these are the different parts which are present in this areolar tissue. Clear? So this structure, this is how this macrophage appears like, which is responsible for protection against harmful organisms. Clear, ma? and this is the fibroblast. So this here green color layer which you are seeing, Nama. So this green color layer is called as fibroblast. And fibroblast produces what? Fibroblast produces collagen fibers. So these are the collagen fibers which will give strength to the tissues. Are you able to understand, ma? And here you can find the mast cells which produces histamine and heparin, which is a part of neuroimmune system. Are you able to understand? So these are the different parts which are present in this areolar tissue. Now where it is present, ma? Areolar tissue, it is present beneath the skin. Just below the skin you can find this areolar tissue. Clear? So it supports as a framework for epithelium. And what is meant by epithelium? Epithelium means skin is made up of what? Skin is made up of epithelium. The outermost layer is called as epithelium, Nama. Outermost layer of the skin or body parts is also called as epithelium. And epithelium is also called as the inner layers of the ducts as well as tubes also. What is meant by tubes? Tubes means what? Veins and arteries. Veins and arteries, inner layers, they are made up of epithelium. Are you able to understand, ma? Similarly, inside the lungs also, the air sacs of the lungs also, they are made up of what? They are also made up of epithelium. Okay. So, for the case of skin, so below the epithelium, you can find this areolar tissue. So, this is one very important point which you should remember. Clear, Nama? So, then we study about adipose tissue. So, this is how the figure of this adipose tissue appears like, ma. And what is the function of adipose tissue? Main function of adipose tissue is to store the fats. They are responsible for storing the fats. Sima, you know that fat is stored below the skin only, no? Are you able to understand, ma? Mostly fat is stored below the skin only. And if fat increases beyond a certain value, ఒక లిమిట్ కన్నా మీరు ఇంత ఉన్నారు అనుకోండి, then it will go and store in liver also, it will go and store in your knees also. Are able to understand, but mostly primarily for a healthy person, fat is stored below the skin itself. Okay. So these adipose tissues, they are seen mainly below the epithelial tissues or below the skin. Clear, Nama? So its cells, what is the name of these cells called as? They are called as adipocytes. So these are the name of the cells which store the fats. So excess nutrients are converted into fats and stored in this tissue. So for example, if you are taking, you require how many calories per day? Around 2000 to 2000 calories you require, Nama. If you are eating food of 10,000 calories, then what will happen? Remaining 8,000 calories is converted into fats. అర్థమవుతుంది కదా? That's it. So this is how this layers they appear like, ma. So these are the adipocytes which contain the adipose cells, and this is the fat storage area where fat is stored, and you will find a nucleus and there is a plasma membrane. So this is the construction of adipose cell, or you can call it as adipocyte. Okay. And a group of this adipocyte cells, they are called as adipose tissues. Okay. So then we are studying about dense connective tissue. Okay, ma. And in dense connective tissue, again we have divided it into two types, no? Dense regular and dense irregular. So here fibers and fibroblasts are compactly packed here. Are you able to understand, ma? What is meant by fiber? Group of cells is called as fiber. And what is meant by fibroblast? So these cells which are responsible for producing collagen and elastin. So these cells, they are compactly packed. Compactly packed means they are very tightly packed. There is no gap between them. That is called as compactly packed. Clear, no? So what are the two cells which are compactly packed? One is fiber cells and the second one is fibroblast cells. So these cells, they are compactly packed in the dense connective tissue. And two types. One is dense regular, second one is dense irregular. In the figure also you can see, Nama. So there is some regularity in this figure. There is no regularity in this figure. Clear, Nama? So that's it. So dense connective tissue, and in dense connective tissue we are studying about dense regular tissue. So what is meant by dense regular, ma? They show a regular pattern of fibers So collagen fibers are present in rows between many parallel bundle of fibers. Are you able to understand ma? Fibers means what? The cells of which dense regular cells they are made up of. So in between these fibers, what you find, you will find again these supporting fibers. What is meant by supporting fibers? Collagen fibers and elastin fibers. Who produce these collagen fibers? Fibroblasts produce this collagen fibers. Are you able to understand ma? It means you will find a layer of cells, and below the layer and above the layer of this fibers you will find this collagen fibers, and again you will find a layer of fibers, again you will find a layer of collagen fibers. So like this, an alternate arrangement of fibers will be present in this dense regular tissues. Clear nama? So examples of this dense regular tissues are tendons as well as ligaments. So these are the examples. Okay, are you able to understand ma? Tendons as well as ligaments. What is meant by tendons? That we will see in the next. Tendons means it is responsible for attaching the muscles to the bone. That is called as a tendon. Ligaments means what? So a muscle which connects two bones is called as a ligament. Are you able to understand? Ma? So you in tendons and ligaments you will find this dense regular type of connective tissue. Okay. So what is meant by tendons and ligaments? It is given here. You can see here. Tendons means what? They attached the skeletal muscles to bones. Muscles they must be attached to the bones, no ma? Okay. So this attachment is provided by the tendons. And what ligaments will do? Ligaments will join two bones. For example, our knee is a combination of two bones, no ma? Lower bone and then thigh bone. Are you able to understand? So these two bones they are joined by what? They are joined by these fibers which is called as ligaments. So that is why they are called as connective tissues. Are you able to understand? That's it. So in the figures you can see ma here this is a tendon which connects the muscles to the bone, and this figure you can call it as a ligament. So what ligament is doing? Ligament is connecting two bones. Clear? So then we are studying about dense irregular type of connective tissues. So irregular pattern of fibroblast and fibers. So there is no regular pattern here. So there is irregular pattern and mostly it is made up of collagen. So fibroblasts are mostly collagen secreting fibroblast. And where you can find them in the skin. Connective tissues of the skin is made up of dense irregular type of connective tissues. Clear? So in the figure you can see ma. So this is a collagen fiber. So because of this collagen fiber only, shape and size of the body parts is maintained. And this is a fibroblast cell. Okay ma? So this fibroblast cell it will produce collagen as well as elastin. Fine? That's it. So then we study about the specialized connective tissue. Okay ma? So in the specialized connective tissue we have three types no ma? One is cartilage, second one is bone, and the third one is the blood. So first one we are studying about the cartilage. Clear? So let us try to understand what is meant by cartilage. So in this intercellular material, what is meant by intercellular material ma? The material which is present in between two cartilage cells or in between many cartilage cells. Cartilage is made up of what? Cartilage is made up of cartilage cells ma. And in the gap present in between these cartilage cells, you will find an intercellular material which is solid, but it is liable. What is meant by liable? You can bend it very easily. Are you able to understand me? It is flexible. For example, our ear and nose, they are made up of cartilage, no? They are not made up of bones, they are made up of cartilage. Okay, cartilage cells are present, and in between the cartilage cells you will find a solid matrix, intercellular matrix, which is solid, uncompressible, but it is liable. Liable means it has elastic properties. Are you able to understand? It can be what you call bent, it can be flexible also. That is the nature of the intercellular matrix. That is why you can bend your ears, no? That's it. So Due to presence of what? Due to presence of chondroitin salts. And chondroitin salts, they are called as a chondroitin sulfate. What is the chemical name of this salt? It is a chondroitin sulfate. Clear? And what does it does? It resists the compression. What is meant by it resist compression? You cannot compress this cartilage. You cannot compress, but you can bend it. Are you able to understand? So that is the nature of this cartilage. So cartilage cells, chondrocytes, are enclosed in small cavities within the matrix secreted by them. So that is the meaning of what we have just studied, Noma. Surrounding all the cartilage cells, you will find intercellular matrix. So most of the cartilage in vertebrate embryos are replaced by bones in the adults. It means in the earlier stages, vertebrate embryos means what? Embryos which has an uh, or which develop into vertebrate type of animals. So in them, cartilage is mostly replaced by bones. It means in the earlier stages, most of the body it will be made up of cartilage, but in the adult stage, finally it will be made up of bones. Clear now? So now see the presence of this cartilage. It is present in the tip of the nose, outer ear, joints in the vertebral column, limbs as well as hands in the case of adults. So in all these regions, you will find this cartilage. So this is an important bit. What is the presence of cartilage? Where it is present? Tip of the nose, clear? At the starting point of the nose. Outer ear. Outer ear means what? Actually, there will be two ears, my inner ear and outer ear. We hear with the help of inner ear. We don't hear with the help of outer ear. Outer ear is made up of cartilage. So joints in the vertebral column. So we have vertebral column number. So in that vertebral column also, the joints they are made up of cartilage, limbs and hands in the case of adults. Clear? That's it. Now what is meant by liable and what is meant by chondroitin I have written here. So you can study it. Clear, Nama? Then next we are studying about bone. So just like cartilage, bone is also similar. In cartilage, you will find cartilage cells, and cartilage cells they are connected by some matrix which is flexible and it is uncompressible. But here in the case of bones, it is made up of bone cells. Bone cells are present, but bone cells they are surrounded by an intercellular matrix which is not liable. You cannot bend it. That is not flexible. Are you able to understand ma? Bones ని bend చేయగలుగుతారా మీరు? చేయలేరు. ఎందుకని? Because the matrix, the fluid, or you can call the filling material between the cells of these bones, it is not liable. That is the only difference between bone and a cartilage. So cartilage is also uncompressible, bone is also uncompressible. But cartilage is bendable, bone is not bendable. That is the only difference. Clear, Nama? So it has a hard and non-pliable matrix which is rich in calcium. Cartilage was rich in chondroitin. Cartilage was rich in chondroitin. But bones or intercellular matrix in the bones is rich in calcium. They are rich in calcium. And collagen fibers, which gives bone its strength. So bone cells they are called as what? Osteocytes. Are you able to understand, ma? Bone cells, what is the name given to the bone cells, ma? Osteocytes. What is the name given to the cartilage cells? Chondrocytes, but here it is called as osteocytes, are seen in the spaces called lacunae. Clear, ma? This is one important bit here. So bone cells, where you will find bone cells, you will find in spaces, and what is that name of the space, ma? That is called as lacunae. And surrounding these bone cells, you will have an intercellular matrix. That's it. Clear now? So functions. What is the function of a bone, ma? It provides a structural framework to the body. What is meant by structural frame? Structural frame ante shape of the body. మీ బాడీ షేప్ అలా ఉందంటే మీ బోన్స్ అలా ఉన్నాయి కాబట్టి. Are you able to understand, ma? Because your bones are standing straight, you are also standing straight. Clear? So shape of the body is provided by the bone. So it supports and protects softer tissues as well as organs. For example, we have vertebral column, no? So vertebral column, what it will do, it will protect all the visceral organs. So your lungs, your kidneys, your heart, all of them, they are protected by bones itself, no? So they are responsible for protection also. So limb bones serve weight bearing functions. Limb bones means bones of your legs. So they are bearing the total weight of your body also, no? So that is their function. So they take part in locomotion and movements also. So blood cells are produced in the bone marrow. This already you know, Nama. Inside the bone there will be a hollow cavity, and inside the hollow cavity you will find bone marrow. And in bone marrow only you will find RBC cells to be produced. Are you able to understand? Which has a lifespan of 120 days. So after 120 days, these RBC cells, they are going to be destroyed. Then again, new cells will be developed inside this bone marrow. So this is the function of the bone. Clear, no? So here you can find in the figure. So articular cartilage is present. So there is a small layer around this bone which is soft, and this layer is called as articular cartilage. Are you able to understand, ma? And red bone marrow, so epiphyseal line, clear, nama? Marrow cavity is present and yellow bone marrow is present. So these are the different parts which are present in the bone. Not important, just for your understanding. Clear, ma? Okay. So next we study about the next connective tissues, which is called as specialized connective tissues. Are able to, sorry, in the same specialized connective tissues we are studying about blood. Okay. So a fluid connective tissue containing plasma, red blood cells, white blood cells, and platelets. So all this combinedly you can call it as a blood aroma. What is meant by plasma? Plasma is a liquid in which all these organelles, they are floating. Able to understand, ma? So RBCs, they are floating, WBCs, they are floating, platelets also, they are floating, and all of these organelles, they are being carried out with the help of a liquid, or this is also a semi-fluid type of substance which is called as plasma. Clear, nama? So helps in circulation of various substances. So already we studied know what are the functions of the blood. Are able to understand, no? For carrying the different substances, this blood is very important. Now see what are the different organelles which are present, ma? RBCs. So this is the structure of RBCs, ma? So it will be like a plate-like structure with a small cavity. Clear, no? And this is the structure of WBC, white blood corpuscles, and this is the shape of the platelets, blood platelets which are present. And in the figure you can see the different organelles which are present, ma? RBC, neutrophils are present, lymphocytes are present, monocytes are present, basophils are present, platelets. Are you able to understand? So these are the different organelles present in the blood. Okay. So this is completed our connective tissues. Then we are studying about the next tissue which is called as muscle tissue or muscular tissue. Clear, ma? So, so therefore here these tissues, they are made up of muscle fibers, or you can call them as muscle cells. Are you able to understand, ma? So all the muscles present in the body, they are made up of muscle cells, no, ma? Clear, no? Any tissue, always it is a group of cells only. Clear? But the most important point in the case of this muscle tissues is these muscle cells, they are cylindrical in shape. ఈ మజిల్ సెల్స్ షేప్ ఎలా ఉంటుంది? సిలిండర్ ఫామ్ లో ఉంటుంది. They will be in the shape of cylinders. Okay. So in the figure also you can find, a cylindrical structure is present. Okay. So muscles are made up of tubular cells. Tubular cells means they are in the shape of tubes. Clear, no? Tubes are in the shape of cylinders. Clear? Tubular cells called muscle fibers, and they are called also called as myocytes. Are you able to understand, ma? So muscle cells also you can call them as myocytes. So write that point in your books. Myocytes. Clear, no? So they are cylindrical in shape, or you can call them as they are tubular in shape. They are in the shape of tubes. So మజిల్స్ అంటే తెలుసు కదా, బైసెప్ ఇలా అన్నట్టే కండ వస్తుంది చూడండి, అవన్నీ మజిల్ ఫైబర్స్. సో దే ఆర్ మేడ్ అప్ ఆఫ్ cylindrical cells. So muscle fibers are composed of numerous fine myofibrils. Are you able to understand, ma? So here this muscle fiber you are seeing, no ma, this is one cell, ma. This muscle fiber is one cell of a muscle. And what is the shape of this cell? Cylinder. And this cylinder is again made up of many cylinders. And what is those cylinders? They are called as myofibrils. Are you able to understand the construction, ma? Inside the muscle cell, you will find myofibrils. That is, inside the myocyte, you will find myofibrils. See how many myofibrils are there? Many myofibrils you can find here, no ma? So this is one myofibril, another one, second, third one, fourth one, fifth one, sixth, like this. So all these they are called as myofibrils, which are present inside myocytes. So muscle fibers can contract as well as relax also. That means they can reduce their length. They cannot elongate, but they can reduce their length, and they can go to their normal length also, which is called as relaxation. Are you able to understand? So muscles take part in locomotion, and muscles take part in movement. Already we know, no ma? Muscles, they are responsible for locomotion also. They are responsible for movement also. They are responsible for performing different functions of day-to-day life also. Clear, ma? Okay. Then types of muscles. So muscles, again we can divide them into three types, or muscle tissues or muscle cells. We can divide them into three types. One is skeletal, which is also called as skeletal muscle, which is also called a striated voluntary muscle. What is meant by striated, ma? So write down here. Striated means what? Striated means an alternate dark and bright bands. If they are present, then it is called as a striated muscle. Okay, ma? So on the muscles you will find a dark color layer, then it is followed by a white color layer, dark color layer, white color layer. So this kind of layer, this kind of patches, if it is present, then it is called as striated. Okay. See ma, in the figure here you can see, see ma, these are the striations which are present. Striations. Striations means what? Here you will find a white color band, no? Then white color band is followed by a dark color band. Then again you have a white color band. Then it is again followed by a dark color band. So this type of bands, if they are present, then it is called as striations. Okay. So alternate dark and bright bands. Okay, ma? So therefore, what is the first type of muscular fiber, ma? Skeletal muscle, or you can call it as striated voluntary muscle. Second one is called as smooth or non-striated, or you can call it as visceral muscle. Okay, ma? Smooth muscle, or also you can call it as non-striated or visceral muscle. What is meant by visceral muscles? The muscles of which the smooth parts of the body parts they are made up of. Are you able to understand? So inside the kidneys also you will find this smooth non-striated muscles. Inside the heart also you will find, inside the lungs also you will find this smooth non-striated muscles. Clear, Nama? And the third type of muscles, they are called as cardiac muscles. Cardiac muscles means what? Heart is made up of a special kind of muscle which is called as cardiac muscle. Are you able to understand? So these are the three types of muscles which we have. Skeletal muscle, which is voluntary. Smooth striated muscle, which is non-striated. Okay, ma? And the second one is called as cardiac muscle. Clear? Now let us study each of them in detail. The first muscle which we are studying is skeletal muscle, or you can call it as a striated muscle. So in the name only you can understand skeletal muscle, Nama. It means all these muscles they are attached to your bones. All the muscles they are attached to your skeleton. That is why they are called as skeletal muscles. Clear? So they attach to bones. Example is biceps. Okay, ma? Biceps, triceps, the bones which are connected to our what you call limbs. All of them they are called as skeletal muscles. Clear? So here you will find the striations. So in all the skeletal muscles, you will find striations. Striations means what? Already we studied, no, dark and bright bands will be present on these muscles. So muscle fibers are bundled together in a parallel fashion. So this is one important bit here. So all these muscle fibers they are arranged parallel. What is meant by parallel arrangement? So this is one muscle fiber, second one, third one, like this. So this kind of arrangement is called as parallel arrangement. So then a sheath of tough connective tissue encloses several bundles of muscle fibers. So all this group of muscle fibers, again it is being protected by another layer which is called as tough connective tissue. Are you able to understand, ma? So muscle tissues, they are a different kind of tissues. But muscle tissues, they are again supported by connective tissues. So already we studied that connective tissues are the tissues which are present majority in the human body. No? Out of all the tissues, which tissues are maximum? Connective tissues are maximum. Because human body it is able to maintain its shape and size only because of this connective tissues and bones only. Okay, so wherever it is necessary, connections are provided very beautifully. Clear, Nama? That's it. So therefore, these muscle fibers again they are connected by a layer of connective tissues. Clear? That's it. So this diagram, I don't think it is important. Okay, ma. So next. See. So next we are studying about smooth, non-striated or visceral muscles. Smooth muscles, or you can call them as non-striated, or you can call them as visceral muscles. Clear, Nama? So they are involuntary, ma, and fusiform. What is meant by fusiform? This fusiform already we studied somewhere in the plants also. In plants also we studied that tendons, they have tapering ends, no? Do you remember? Tendons, they have tapering ends. What is meant by tapering ends? So when you travel towards the end, so the end is very what you call in sharp nature. So these muscles, when they travel towards the end, they will become sharp. That type of nature is called as fusiform nature. Understood, Nama? So it means these fibers that taper at both ends. It means when you travel towards the end, they become more and more sharper. Are you able to understand, ma? So that is about involuntary muscle, or you can call them as fusiform also. So striations are absent. Okay. So cell junctions hold them together, and they are bundled together in a connective tissue sheath. This also we can understand, Noma. Cell junctions, they are held together. Uh, Already we have studied, Noma. Inside the cell, we have three types of junctions. Are you able to understand? And these cell junctions, they hold the cells together. And again, they are connected by a layer of connective tissue. So they are seen in the walls of internal organs such as blood vessels, stomach, as well as intestine. So this is the most important point in this total slide. So where you can find this non-striated or visceral muscles, ma? In the walls of internal organs such as blood vessels. So walls of blood vessels. But inner layers of blood vessels, they are made up of what? Inner layers. Blood vessels ante evevi, veins as well as arteries. So the inner layers of veins and arteries, they are made up of epithelial cells. But to walls of these tubes, they are made up of these muscle tissues. Are you able to understand, ma? Or smooth and non-striated muscles. So stomach is also made up of visceral muscles. Intestines also they are made up of what you called non-striated muscles. Clear, Doma? So next, the third type of muscle which we are seeing is called cardiac muscle. Okay, ma? So these are the involuntary muscles seen only in the heart. So these muscles you can find only in the case of heart only. So cell junctions fuse the plasma membranes of the cells and make them stick together. What is the meaning of this one? So one cell and another cell, they are being connected by junctions, Nama. So in the case of heart, so these junctions, they get fused up with each other. It means all the cells, they are connected by a very large layer. So మామూలుగా one cell and the next cell, they are connected by small region, నోమా చిన్న region, చిన్న gap junction తో connect అయి ఉంటాయి. But here the size of the gap junction present in between the two cells of cardiac muscles, they are very 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 big. అర్థమవుతుంది కదా? So what is the point here? You have to write the gap junction, the gap junction between two cells of heart is very large. Okay, ma? Size of the gap junction is very large. So if size of the gap junction increases, what will happen? Most of the first cell and most of the second cell, they get fused up with each other. That is what will happen. ఇంతకుముందు చదివినా గుర్తుందమ్మా. For example, this is one cell and this is another cell. So they are connected by gap junctions. No? Are you able to understand? But in the case of cardiac muscles, what will happen? This gap junction is very large. Okay, ma? So once gap junction is very large, what will happen? The fusing of the cells will become are able to understand, ma? So this gap junction, size of the gap junctions is very large, so that what will happen? Cell junctions fuse the plasma membrane of the cells and make these cells stick together. Understood, Noma? That's it. So communication junctions. Similarly, there is one more junction which is called as communication junction, gap junctions only. So these communication junctions allow the cells to contract as a unit. When one cell receives a signal to contract, its neighboring cells are also contracted. Are you able to understand, ma? So what is the advantage of this gap junctions, ma? What is the advantages of fusing all the cells? Advantage is that if one cell receives the signals to contract, then all the cells receive the same signal at the same time, and all of them, they will contract as a unit, and they will relax as a unit also. Are you able to understand? క్లియర్ నమ్మా? సెల్లులో హార్ట్లో ఒక్కొక్క సెల్ ఒక్కొక్కసారి కాంట్రాక్ట్ అవుతుందా? కాదు కదా, అంతా కలిపి ఒక యూనిట్ లాగా ఫంక్షన్ అవుతుంది. అండ్ హూ ఇస్ రెస్పాన్సిబుల్? The overlapping, or what you call the fusing of the cells, is responsible for that. It means cytoplasm of all the cells, it is interconnected. So that if one cell receives the signal, all the cells, they will receive the signal. And all of them, they will either contract or relax at the same time. So this is the advantage of these kind of muscles, which is called as cardiac muscles. Understood, Nama? That's it. So therefore, so this what you call this combination of cells, you can call it as intercalated disc. So this group of cells, what you call it as? You will call it as intercalated disc. So in the figure you can find here. So this is called as an intercalated disc. This region, this total region, you can call it as a intercalated disc. It means this is a group of many cells which are interconnected to each other with the help of gap junctions. Fine? That's it. Okay. So then we study about the last type of tissue, which is called as neural tissue. Are you able to understand? So total 4 tissues we have now, and this is the last one, which is called as neural tissue. There is no much information about this one in Ncert. We have a very small information about this. So it is made up of neurons. So total neural tissue is made up of what? It is made up of neurons. So unit of a neural system. So responsible for control and coordination of the body. So total human body, the contractions, the relaxations, everything is controlled by nerves. No? Are you able to understand? Ma? So this neural tissue is made up of neurons. So neurons are excitable cells and they carry impulses. What is meant by excitable cells, ma? So these cells, they have the ability to produce impulses. Impulses means what? Electrical impulses are produced in the human body. Are able to understand? మీకు ఒక చోట దెబ్బ తగిలింది అనుకోండి, సో అక్కడ నుంచి కంటిన్యూస్గా మీ బ్రెయిన్కి ఇంపల్సెస్ ట్రావెల్ అవుతూనే ఉంటాయి. ఒరే నీకు దెబ్బ తగిలింది చూసుకోరా అని. అర్థమవుతుంది కదమ్మా? అండ్ దీస్ సిగ్నల్స్ దే ఆర్ మేడప్ ఆఫ్ వాట్? దే ఆర్ మేడప్ ఆఫ్ ఎలక్ట్రిసిటీ, కరెంట్. Able to understand? So total human body, always current will be flowing. Very small electrical impulses will be flowing. Even when you touch your mobile phone, how mobile phone screen is working, ma? Because your finger has the ability to produce electrical impulses. So those impulses are sensed by the screen and it will start working. Are able to understand? That's it. So neurons are excitable cells. They carry the impulses. So neurons are protected and supported by which kind of cells, ma? They are protected by neuroglial cells. This is another important point. So all the neurons, they have a protection. And who protects these neurons? Neurons will be protected by a type of cells which is called as neuroglial cells. Clear? So neuroglial cells, they make up more than half the volume of the neural tissue. Are you able to understand, ma? So total neural system, of this neural system, half of the cells, they are responsible for protection. And what are those cells which are responsible for protection? Neuroglial cells. Neuroglial cells, they are not responsible for carrying impulses. Are you able to understand? ఇక్కడ రెండు టైప్స్ ఆఫ్ సెల్స్ గురించి మనం మాట్లాడుతూ ఉన్నాం. ఒకటి సెల్స్ విచ్ ఆర్ మేడప్ ఆఫ్ న్యూరన్స్ అండ్ ద సెకండ్ వన్ ఈస్ న్యూరోగ్లియల్ సెల్స్. Neuroglial cells, they are not responsible for carrying impulses. They are responsible for protecting the neurons. Is it clear? But they make half of the total volume of the total neurons present in the body. Understood now? That's it. Okay, ma? And organ system already we have studied, no, ma? Cells, group of cells is called tissues, group of tissues is called organ, and group of organs is called organ system. So this organization is essential for better coordinated activities of cells. It means all the functions of the cells, they are carried perfectly only because of this type of organization. So organ is made up of one or more types of tissues. So this is one important point here. Heart has epithelial tissues also. It has connective tissues also. It has muscular tissues also. It has neural tissues also. Are you able to understand, ma? Epithelial cells, they are made up of epithelial. Heart also has a tubes, no, ma? And inner layers of tubes, they are made up of what? Epithelial cells. Clear, no? Where blood is flowing. And definitely heart is made up of connective tissues for protection and connection. Muscular muscles are present in the heart, no, cardiac muscle is present. And nerves also, they are present in the heart. So neural tissues are also present. Clear? That's it. Okay, ba? So we will stop up to here. In the afternoon, we will study about morphology and anatomy of cockroach. Clear? That's it.